In tonight's 360 perspective, we're taking a look at the impeachment process happening in Washington. Congress has the authority to impeach from the Constitution. It's the ultimate check on the chief executive. Impeachment is commonly used to mean removing someone from office, but it actually refers only to the filing of formal charges. If the House impeaches, then the Senate holds a trial to see whether the figure should be removed from office and barred from serving again. Now, the House has impeached 19 people, mostly federal judges. Two presidents, Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton, were impeached, but not forced from the White House because the Senate voted not to convict them. 3 articles of impeachment were approved against Richard Nixon, but he resigned before the House could vote on those. So what constitutes an impeachable offense? The Constitution provides that a president can be impeached for treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. The meanings of treason and bribery are understood, but the Constitution does not define high crimes and misdemeanors. Congress has identified types of conduct that can constitute those grounds, but the misdeeds don't necessarily mean crimes. They include misusing office for financial gain, abusing powers of the office, or acting in a manner not compatible with office. When Gerald Ford was a member of the House, he defined an impeachable offense as whatever a majority of the House of Representatives considers it to be at a given moment in history. In other words, impeachment and conviction by Congress is a political punishment, not a criminal one. We spoke with UCCS political science professor Josh Dunn. He says you can't divorce politics from this because you are deciding to try and remove someone from office who was elected to the position.
It's always a political decision, even though there are constitutional standards for what constitutes an impeachable offense. There's debate on what those standards are, how you interpret those parts of the Constitution. Nevertheless, it's still a political decision.
He also says there's no set formula for impeachment, no typical process, because we haven't had that many. For instance, the Trump investigation has 3 House committees looking into it. Bill Clinton's had 1, heavily relying on an independent counsel report. So what comes next after public testimony? The House Intelligence Committee will draft a report of its findings for the Judiciary Committee, which would write the articles of impeachment. Then the House would have to make a full vote on those articles. If the majority votes yay, it would go to the Senate for trial. The Constitution solely grants the Senate the power to try impeachments. Some scholars interpret that as they're empowered but not required to carry it out. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says they would take the matter up and do their constitutional responsibility, which Professor Dunn says could end up hurting the Democrats in the end.
But on the Senate side, they definitely would be able to call their own witnesses. And this is why I think some of the Democrats are, like Speaker Pelosi, are skeptical that it would work to the advantage of her party, because in the Senate, certainly the Republicans would try to turn this into let's make this about Joe Biden and his son, and Biden, if he ends up being the Democratic nominee, this could be it could be very painful for him and damaging for him.
If the process moved forward and President Trump was impeached, he's not allowed to pardon himself. And if the Senate convicted the president, he'd immediately be removed from office, triggering the 25th Amendment, and VP Mike Pence would become leader, who would then nominate someone to succeed him. What do you think of the impeachment inquiry? Do you believe that Democrats have a case to be made for impeachment against President Trump or not? Sound off on our Facebook pages, KOAA5 and Elizabeth Watts News, and we'll continue to follow this process for you. If you have ideas for a future 360 perspective, email 360@koaa.com.